Okay, so let's continue the conversation we had the last time. The last time we talked about, you know, why we as a society need to challenge our perceptions, our assumptions and language at this time when we're living with boys, working with boys. And what we wanted to do with this conversation was just to start to go inside Ross's head, inside my head, and look at the experience that we've had working with groups in the past around, say, challenging situations, sensitive issues, and where we've found success. And I think that's important. And we alluded to some of the solutions, I think, in the last conversation, where the answer to a lot of what we're seeing just now is opening a dialogue. You know, Ross, you know, that came out last time. Your thoughts at this time?
Yeah. I mean, I think so, yeah. I mean, obviously we're living in very challenging times where families are all in the same house as one another 24/7. You know, we've got parents trying to work and also looking after family, childcare, etc. And but I think it also provides an opportunity. I mean, I think for boys and young men, we need to give them time to hang out with their mates, but in a slightly different way. And although sometimes we might have been critical of social media in the past, now it's actually a godsend. And I think that we can encourage young men to engage in gaming, to engage in hanging around with their mates online through Discords and so on for a certain amount of time through the day, but also having opportunities to just talk to our boys and young men and encouraging them to hang out with us as well a bit more.
Yeah, I think in the way that we do talk and engage with boys and men at this time, you know, I often, you know, I read a lot, I scan the media, and I often see conversations with boys or conversations with men, you know, as individuals or in media pieces. It's often very much sort of short sound bites. You know, don't do this, don't do that. You shouldn't be doing this. And I think we need to move beyond these short sound bites that are warning boys and men about what they should do and what they shouldn't do, to more, excuse me, more aspirational conversations that try and connect with that person on the emotional level as well. So we start to, you know, we talked in the last about real fears that our boys are going through just now, and you know, we need to be careful that we don't you know, indict them, point the finger, attack that person, because we run the risk of disengaging them, and defiance could be the next step. You know, we're not at that stage yet. We're not seeing that to a great extent. We're seeing pockets of that, but you know, I think we need to be careful that our conversations bring people in. Let's engage. You know, let's engage our boys and men, not just on this issue, but on a whole range of other issues as well. So for me, it's about, you know, we need a more open and authentic conversation around, you know, boys and men. You know, yesterday I did my first ever ShedX talk. You know, you saw that, Ross, and it's got a bit of traction online. And I think it's all I wanted to do was to really talk about how I was feeling. And I think that role modeling is so important. Just now, you know, I used the phrase, what you promote, you permit, before. And I think it's, you know, we can't just expect boys to open up. We need to role model the behaviours we want to see in them. That's important, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've been doing a series of short videos every day, putting it out there. I've been using techniques like breathing and meditation and mindfulness, but within it, I've also been trying to open up and kind of model the kind of behaviour that we're talking about, opening up about the fact that I'm anxious, you know, a lot of people are anxious, we're all experiencing this. And I think as men, if we open up, then we permit other men to open up and become vulnerable and display that vulnerability. You know, I think there's an opportunity here. We've got extended time that we're spending within family context like never before, probably, you know. And for instance, one of the things that I'm doing, I've got a 15-year-old son, and every day we've been going for a walk together. Sometimes we do a bit of gaming together, but it's not about the walk or the gaming, actually. It's about conversations that can open up. You know, sometimes we talk about what's happening with COVID-19. We talk about how we're feeling. And I think, you know, having those kind of conversations is really helpful just now.
Yeah. And I find that when I, in my places of work, when I create a conversation, other people then join in. I remember a few years ago doing some group work with some young men who were living in chaotic lifestyles, and we were talking about, you know, building their brand, building their value set, and you know, encouraging them to talk about, you know, why do they get up in the morning, what do they believe in, what, you know, you know, tell us about your good qualities, tell us about what you believe in. And you know, we were getting some really meaningful, powerful, positive, you know, about being the provider. And I've kept the flip chart because it's really powerful to look at, about being respectful, about being a good husband, a good partner, a good dad. And when I got the feedback at the end, the feedback from 2 or 3 of the men was, thank you for letting me thank you for allowing me to see what other people think. And what they got from that was that the commonality that we know exists in society. We have more in common than which divides us, but you won't get that unless you create the conversation. And so I think, you know, for me, a bit of advice is, if you're a teacher doing some online work with young boys, just, this is Ross said, just, how are you feeling? How are you feeling just now? You know, start that conversation every day. How are we feeling? You know, approach it head on. And also tell them how you're feeling. What you promote, you permit. And I think we see that with mental health. We just expect boys, you know, boys need to talk, men need to talk. No, I'm a great believer in men like Ross and I and other men in the world. We need to create the conditions where men can talk. We can't just expect, because remember, we're playing against thousands of years of conditioning, social conditioning, and we need to, you know, be aware of that. So, and you know, so learn about this stuff. You know, do the knowledge around some of the stuff that Ross has talked about in the first talk, and apply that. And I think, you know, that's important for me. So create this open and honest dialogue, and now's a good time to do that, because I'm seeing, you know, my wife has got a really good relationship with her daughters, talking openly about a whole range of things. That was in place years ago, and now it's coming. It's natural. So if you haven't started talking to your young men and your daughters as well, or anybody, about sensitive and challenging issues, now's a good time to stop to talk about it, because then you start to build the trust, you build the empathy and understanding, and you share the burden. I think that's what you're talking about with your son, Ross.
Definitely. And I think culturally things are changing a lot, you know, because I still hear this kind of messaging going around sometimes that, oh, men find it really difficult to open up and to talk, and they don't talk about their feelings and emotions. And I actually think that's rubbish, because most of the men that I know, you know, don't have a problem doing that. And I think increasingly we're finding these forums emerging, you know, well, for instance, in the prison, you know, we have these check-in and check-out times in the recovery cafes where men are opening up, talking about how they're feeling. I've been in at the Violence Reduction Unit's Cheat and Arrow project, with young men there that are checking in, checking out every day, opening up to their feelings and their vulnerability. And we've got lots of these kind of online and offline groups, men's groups emerging, man caves, if you like, you know, where men really are becoming a lot more comfortable about talking about their emotions in front of one another.
Yeah, I think it's a paradox. It's a myth that men don't want to talk. You know, I think that's the perception, that's the assumption that society makes. But the reality is that we do talk, and we actually want to talk. And I'm seeing, as you say, I'm seeing some really good men's groups forming all over the country. And at this time, I'm seeing a lot of good narrative. You know, a lot of narrative around physical exercise, the press up challenge. Men Matters are doing a press up challenge. A mutual friend, Douglas Guest, is doing through Mankind, is doing online meetings. So it doesn't have to be face to face. You know, you and I are looking at each other, we're listening to each other, we're interacting with each other, we're not hiding anything from each other, we're talking about different things. So it's a great opportunity. But one other thing I think is good as well is for parents and teachers working with young boys, is to talk about the goodness that we're seeing in the society, the good stuff. And you know, we're seeing, you know, there's an American TV personality from the 60s, 70s, Fred Rogers. He says, he talks about in moments of crisis, look for the helpers. And I think, you know, we run the risk just now of being completely consumed by negative media. You know, I think, you know, in everyday occurrence, they say that 80% of our media consumption is negative. I think just now we're probably tipping the 90% of media consumption is very negative. So we need to balance that out, because that can, you know, that negativity, that negative narrative can just exacerbate the issues that we've talked about in this talk and in previous talks. So I think parents and teachers, carers have a role to talk about. Did you see something on the news about the young men helping in the community? You know, my community, you know, I'm seeing young men stepping up and delivering shopping. You know, so talk about the good things that are going on in the world, because this will pass. This period will pass. And also, as well as that, you know, I'm a great believer in, you know, prevention starts in the community. And there's a role here for men and boys and men and everybody else to do their little bit. And already we've got leaders and politicians and public health experts saying that we are making a difference. So talk about that to your sons, to your daughters, and talk about this stuff to people around you, that, you know, by sitting at home and staying safe, we're saving people's lives. And you know, it makes them feel part of something.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you know, it's a good point you make, Graham, there about this time will pass, you know, because I think, like all difficult experiences, whether it's difficult emotions, whether it's difficult physical experiences, or difficult periods in time like this is, with social distancing and isolation, we need to hold on and remember that this time will pass.
Yeah.
But sometimes, although we're having difficult reactions to this period, sometimes instead of fighting against that and changing it, we also need to encourage our boys and young men to embrace it, you know, and just sit with it. And I think that's sometimes where mindfulness can come in.
Yeah.
This non-judgmental awareness of the present moment and everything that it's bringing, the difficult emotions, the frustration, the fear, the anxiety, and just paying attention on purpose to that present moment non-judgmentally. And sometimes just taking a breath, even if it's for a couple of minutes at certain points in the day, and refocusing on the present moment, I think that can be really helpful. And again, we just need to model that behaviour and encourage boys and young men to see that as something that can be helpful and something that men can do during this time.
Yeah, I think you just to sort of bring this talk to a conclusion. You know, you've talked about this is a unique time for all of us. You know, and there's going to be stresses on mums and dads and families around employability, financial stressors, and it's going to be, you know, it's easy for us to talk about, you know, have conversations and set structure and do this and do that, you know. So you need support as well. So it's about, this isn't, you know, encouraging mindfulness or whatever in conversations in your sons. It's about you having that as a parent, as a teacher, having these conversations with people around you as well. And, you know, we're all in this together. You know, I was speaking to friends in America the other night there. They've got similar issues, maybe about a week or two behind us. But it's coming and they're getting concerned about it as well. So, you know, family dinners, they're important. You know, I think it's important that we try and create these opportunities, not just for your son or your daughter, but for you as well, as a family, as a carer. You know, great opportunity there as well. Schoolwork is still being done. You need to encourage that. So structure, you've talked about structure in the day is really important. And I like your use of how we need to encourage boys to be on social media. But, you know, there was a report done recently about social media, and people think, oh, social media is bad and gaming's bad. And these are ways to communicate, you know, and these are ways that our young people are communicating. As long as our young men, young people are getting good exercise, good sleep at night, you know, why not let them play with their friends? Because this is the only way they're going to get to do it just now, and they're connecting at this important time. So thanks for that conversation, Ross. And I think next time we speak, we're going to start to look at some of the other issues that, that are maybe with all this opportunity to be online, what other risks are out there for young boys and young men?
Yeah, great.